3,000. That's right, we've flipped more than 3,000 profitable houses and can teach you how to do the same thing. Click the Academy link for your free roadmap to financial freedom.
Hey everyone, it's Michael from Houston, Texas, and I wanted to give a quick shout out and a testimony for Peter. And if you're like me at all, you might have thought that getting into flipping houses was too much time, too much effort, didn't know enough about what to do or how to do it, to make it a reality. And for me, I've always been interested in real estate and flipping in particular, and I have some really good buddies that make some serious cash doing just flips. And like I said, I just thought it was too much for me to handle. And if I was going to do it, I was going to do it right. I was going to learn from the professionals that could teach me A to Z how to do it, how to make money, how to be the most effective and efficient at doing this. And I ran into Peter's videos on YouTube, and it was instant. I was like, yep, this guy's pro. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's got amazing success, but he's also got the experience and the know-how to teach me, somebody that hasn't done this before. So huge shout out. I've learned more than I thought I would. I'm a quick learner, guys. And I learned a lot more than I thought I would in a much shorter amount of time so that I can do this full time without thinking about it. His program's awesome. Check him out on peteracademy.com if you haven't already, and good luck.
Hey, Peter Vekselman. So today I want to talk to you about kind of a cliche, but the thing about cliches is it feels like you always have to hear them over and over and over again for them to really make sense and sink in. And the other thing I want to talk to you about is just this whole concept about when do you actually kill a deal? Our philosophy here is that we never kill deals. Literally, we never kill deals unless the deal is sold or something happens that we know will be totally out of our control. Sometimes we find out that whoever's trying to sell us the property is not the actual owner. But anything short of that, all of our deals stay alive. So I thought the best way to explain this, kind of keep the hope alive and never give up, and when do you kill a deal? Let me talk to you about an actual deal that we just closed here a couple days ago. And here's kind of the HUD on it. And it was on McAfee Road. And it was a deal that we flipped and did a wholesale deal on and made a quick $6,500 for. So what I did on my computer screen, I took some major notes, some major bullet points that happen along the way. But I can tell you for every one of these major bullet points, there's a ton of subpoints. Now, interestingly enough, as I'm doing this, today is December 28th. The deal actually started in May. So think about it, this is months. How many deals do you have in your pipeline right now that are literally, 7, 8, 9 months old? So the one thing is I'll encourage you, do not let the length of a closing determine that the deal dies. So many times investors go like, well, I couldn't get it done in the first 3 weeks, so the deal's dead. I couldn't get it done in the first month and a half, so the deal's dead. So many times how long it takes you to close has very little to do with whether it'll close. It started May 2005. The seller, within the next 4 weeks, went literally MIA for us. And when they go MIA for us, when our sellers disappear, we put some pressure on them. We get our attorneys involved, we lien the properties, we get demand letters out and all that. Well, so we went through that process. Nothing, no response, couldn't get a hold of them. So, when we try to kind of push the seller there, it had no effect. Interestingly enough, then in October, okay, so May, June, July, September, October. So 5 months later, and remember, we kept the deal alive. We still made some kind of process every once in a while, try to reconnect. Finally, 5 months later in October, we're able to reconnect with the seller, and the seller basically agreed to sell us the property, okay? So now this is a deal that we were gonna wholesale. So this is not a deal necessarily I wanted to take title to and own for an extended period of time. So guess what else had to happen in October? When we were in May, wanting to do the deal, we had a buyer for it. Guess what? In October, we had to start looking for a new buyer again. So now, we're 5, 6 months into the deal. We're starting the marketing process all over again. We're finding the buyer. Well, guess what? A month later, the seller goes MIA, but this time we're able to track him down to no less than the federal prison. So the guy gets put in prison. Well, when that happened, we then had to figure out who his attorneys were, and we had to start working with attorneys. So for the next couple months, we worked for his attorneys. Now, interestingly enough, it says in that process, he actually switched attorneys. So one of his attorneys went MIA on us, became missing. We reconnected with a new attorney, and finally, December 22nd, we closed this deal. That's a 7-8 month old deal that had the possibility of dying several times in that process. So keep the hope alive. What's the concept there? In this business, nothing is ever dead. We literally, in all our debt files, once a month, reconnect with all of them. So the sellers that told us no on deals we were working towards, the deals that fell apart, before closings that we couldn't close. So once a month, we're constantly reconnecting. We're keeping our hope alive for every single one of these deals, because these deals happen to us literally. And again, our pipeline's very big now, but they constantly happen to us on a weekly basis. So that's the great thing about this business. Short of some unbelievable circumstances, like the property gets sold from underneath you, which does happen, or like I said, maybe the seller's not the true seller. Anything other than that, this is why it's so important to keep your pipeline going, because anything other than those extenuating circumstances, it gives you hope. It gives you hope that the 50 deals that you have in that pipeline, the debt pipeline, as long as you're constantly reconnecting, at any point in time, they can reconnect. Second thing is, never ever kill a deal. This is a perfect example. You never ever kill a deal. MIA going missing on us, his attorney's missing on us, not responding to demand letters, not responding to lawsuits, not responding to liens on the property, ends up in federal prison, and guess what? We're still able to close that deal. What a great business we're in, that you always have the ability to keep the hope alive if your pipeline is big enough, and never ever kill any deal unless something extenuating happens. Hey, Peter Vekselman here. So today I want to talk to you about some famous words that I hear all the time, and that is this: the deal is dead. I hear this from investors all the time, whether they're my coaching clients or sometimes they're acquaintances of mine, and I hear it over, the deal died, the deal's dead. And then I'm so used to that word, I always ask a follow-up question. I say, well, why did it die? And there could be a million reasons that I hear why deals died. I needed money, couldn't get the money. The construction needed to be this, it became this. The seller wanted to do this, but we couldn't do that. I was going to wholesale it, but then my buyer backed out. There's a myriad of answers why deals fall apart. So I want to talk to you about a specific deal we just closed on here. Not a big deal. It was on Laney Avenue or Laney Street, and only made about exactly $5,000 on it, okay? Again, not a huge, overwhelming deal, but an important deal as it relates to giving up. Before I started talking about this, I made a phone call to Mary, and for those of you that watch my videos know who Mary is. Mary in my company here, her responsibility is to drive the deals forward. She's the coordinator. Every deal we have on the board, that is her responsibility. Close the deals, close the deals, close the deals. I remember talking to Mary I just talked to Mary about this deal, and she kind of started going through all the emails that she got on these deals and all the text messages she got on this deal. And she counted almost 25 times where this deal literally could have come to an end. And it was for the exact same reasons. This person wasn't cooperating, that person wasn't cooperating, profit margin went from here, profit margin went to there, obviously we ended up wholesaling this deal. So the buyer thought, they could spend this for construction, turned out to be that for construction. I think there were even some title issues that we had to find some missing individuals. It just literally 20 plus some reasons why this deal could have died at any point in time. And we could have gotten that same conversation, the deal's dead. So here's what everybody knows here. Now, does it happen that sometimes deals die? Yes. Every once in a while does happen. But that's like comparing it to title problems. Are there some title problems that are not fixable? Yes. Maybe 1 out of 500, 1 out of 600. But the rest of them, 99.9% of title problems are fixable. I'm going to tell you right now, 99% of the time when people tell me they give up for one single reason. They get to that first major roadblock. They might along the way kind of go over the smaller roadblocks, but they get to what they perceive to be a major roadblock, kind of a deal breaker as we call it, something that they think they cannot overcome, and then they do what so many other individuals do, they just simply give up. So here is my challenge to you. Next time, or maybe you're in the middle of one right now, next time you get to the point where you're feeling like, I cannot get this deal closed, I want you to sit down, I want you to figure out what it's going to take to get this deal closed. And I know sometimes these are the kind of things you're like, well, how can I ever do that? Or how can we ever find that person on title? Or how can I get my costs down? Or how can I get the realtor to agree to cut their commission? Or how can I? Even if those reasons are not logical reasons, I want you to write them down. I want you to put them down on a piece of paper. And then one by one, I want you to start to try to solve every one of these, what you believe to be unsolvable issues. Here's my point. When you give up before you try to solve it, it's a dead deal. If you start solving these issues, you will be shocked how many of these issues can actually be solved. See, the reason we do not give up here is after doing 3,000 deals, every single time we get an issue that seems insurmountable, that seems like overwhelming, to us it's almost like a no big deal. Because we can look back in our history and say, been there, done that. Here's what we did. Now, the first time we had to solve it, it was difficult. Sometimes we had to call for help, outside resources to help us solve the problems. And that may come down to you also. Some of the issues you're coming through, you may not yourself be able to solve. You may not yourself even know how to solve. But again, that does not mean you give up, it's a dead deal. All that means is, let's say it's some kind of a title issue. You go to a title examiner to help you solve it. Let's say it's some kind of a money issue. You go to a money people and see how you overcome that. Let's say it's a construction issue. You talk to people that understand construction and see if that's something that could be avoided or the cost could be cut down. So sometimes you yourself do not possess the answer. That does not mean you give up. So if you're at a point right now where you have some deals on the board that they're under the dead file, pull them out, figure out what needs to be done, and then I challenge you, whether you by yourself or you with other people, you solve those issues. You'll be absolutely shocked and flabbergasted how many of these deals that look like to be dead deals can actually be solvable deals. Don't ever, ever give up.